My name is Sherry Ray. I am a coach and consultant. My practice is streamlined to support my clients in eliminating struggle in their personal and professional lives and replacing that struggle with joy. Visit me at sherryray.com. I would love to connect with you. So today's conversation is titled Perception is Not Reality. What, you say? What do you mean? Perception paints a picture of the world you see and tells you it's real. But is it really? I hope you enjoy this conversation and hear valuable information that supports you in living in more peace. Thanks for listening. It came to me because in this experience of life, we have our experience of everything. We have our experience of everything. We have uh, I'll say a story about everything. We have a perception of everything. And so starting to look and see, it's like, what is your perception made of? You know, is it when you kind of think about this, just to reflect on it, it's good to see what the recipe is of your perception. There's ingredients in there. And I think it's really good to see that the ingredients in your perception are unique to you. Otherwise, there'd be no conflict in the world. Otherwise, there'd be no difference of opinion. There'd be no seeing anything differently. There'd be no conflict in the world. Does that make sense? That your perception is of your own recipe? Excellent, 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 excellent. All right. But what if this perception or assessment, judgment, spontaneous determination, or discernment of what's happening in front of you is not true or is not what I'm calling real, you know? And it's like, what it feels real. It feels real. And so that tends to be where it gets confusing between questioning your recipe of what your perception of what you're seeing and the feeling of what you're seeing, if that makes any sense at all, because it feels real. Like when you're angry or you see somebody do something, how fast do you feel it? And it feels real because your body is flooded with whatever your sensory system is like lighting up on everything that is uh, in alignment with your perception of what's going on. And you know how fast that happens? You know, it all happens so fast. And so you think it's got to be real because you're having a full body response to it. So what I was thinking about a, a story. I mean, just in pulling from my own background around like doing these webinars, you know, like I thought it would be fun at one time to do these webinars. And then that was probably, I don't know, more than a few years ago. And for a couple of years, I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. I'm not going to look at myself on camera. B, I'm not gonna, I couldn't stand to hear my own voice. I would have nothing to say. Nobody would show up. What's the point? That's good. That's kind of a perception that goes through my life forever. Like, what's the point? We're all going to die. It's all going to end. What's the point? Why do anything? I gotta tell you, my mental game to go from zero to what's the point in about a flash. So, but all those years that I would be gridlocked, almost rigor mortis in there, what's the point? And this makes no sense, and I can't do it. I felt it. It felt so true because my gut would lock up. I'd be discouraged. It'd be like it felt factual. It really felt factual. And then the more I don't know whatever flipped the switch. I don't have any idea. But the more I started to see that that was my idea of me getting in front of a camera and doing a webinar, that was my perception of me doing a webinar, was just whether I was doing a webinar or whether I was doing my piano recital that I messed up at 9 years old and forgot the piece of music. It was all me not being equipped to do whatever it was I was kind of drawn to do. So in that place, I just want you to reflect for a minute, like when you get an instant something, an assumption, a hit, a judgment, a story on a situation, any situation. I
I'm
think
listening.
I think it's a really good idea to give yourself like a beat or two. Take a beat, take a breath, and be able to navigate that impulse or those feelings of truth when you at that first, even if I don't even think it's a minute, but and maybe it's not even measurable the amount of time that your body has that visceral reaction to your perception of what's going on, that in that place of letting that urgency or that immediate feeling be, kind of let it hang in the air for a minute before you assume you're seeing what's real. And hopefully you'll start to get a sense that this is what you're seeing. This is looks real to me based on my assessment of the situation. But it's not universally true for everything and everybody. And I think that little piece, when you can start to see your reaction to anything, while you might have the masses commiserate with you, it's still going to be a very individual experience of what's in front of you that you feel is real. So, when you think about that, just like when you think about any situation, and I think this is a prime time holiday season. I think it's prime time when going into with other people, just kind of, I'll say have the self awareness or have the understanding about human beings that everybody's gonna be in reaction to what their mind is telling them about what's going on. You got to know that people are going to be in reaction to what their mind is telling them what's going on. Now, does that feel different when you kind of think about coming into conversations with other people? If you could really feel that anything that they, I'll say, point towards you, even though it looks like it's about you, but they're in complete reaction to their perception or their story of what they think they're seeing based on how it's, and then their body's going to feel. So they're kind of double downing. The feeling of what the feeling is going to tell you, you don't even have to know what you're thinking, but the feeling is going to tell you kind of where your head is at on anything. In this conversation, it's so helpful to see that even before we I'll say even before we try to figure out what to do, I think it's so helpful to see that what I'm getting an action plan on is based on what my mind's made up about what's going on. You see what I mean? So it's like we can take ownership of really what reality got created inside my own head before I need to deal with it. Once we start to realize, like, oh my gosh, that my reaction to that is of my creation. And to me, that takes a lot off the table when you can see it always comes back to me like we get to see behind the curtain where the curtain says this is life telling you something. This is the billboard. Life is telling you how life works. Life is telling you something. And behind it, your mind is like, your conditioned mind's kind of laughing, going, oh, they think it's the outside world. It's like the anonymous painter behind the billboard. It's creating this whole reality that then we think we have to formulate an action plan or a healing plan to overcome this. When in reality, if we saw the painter behind the billboard, we could be a little looser about it. We don't have so much work. We don't have so much work. Does that make sense? To kind of go to the seed versus just cut it off at the soil level and it's going to sprout back. And there's no right or wrong to it. It's just really being able to see that so much of what we manage is we're managing our perceptions of stuff. And if we held those perceptions or those stories or those realities our mind created, we wouldn't. They kind of dissolve when we see that it was I don't know, to me, like an equivalent of of a sandcastle and the tide came in.
Okay, I'm trying to. I was three minutes late, but I'm trying to relate this to something that I can kind of grasp it. Okay, I have a really good
Wonderful.
friend. I have a really good friend who lost her brother in the past week. Favorite member of the family,
Yep.
and we talked every day. But yesterday she said, when he was alive, all I could think about, a lot of what I occupied my mind was the fact that he was a drinker, sort of a functioning alcoholic. He had big cocktails every day, and yet he was a severe diabetic. So he was not, it affected his health status and arguably led to his early death.
Mm-hmm.
She said, but since he died, and that I'm not telling the story for my benefit. What I'm saying is, she said, since he died, sorry, um, she never thinks about his alcoholism. She doesn't think about his diabetes. She just realizes she would love to talk to him on the phone, like they always did, to have a chat on the
Mm-hmm.
phone. And
Mm-hmm.
that she realizes that all of her worrying and trying to talk to him at times about it, once in a while, especially late in life when his health was breaking down, like, you could live a little longer, a little better, which she said all of that had zero effect on his behavior. She was not going to change his habits. And she realizes she really wasted a lot of bandwidth and emotion worrying about the alcoholism and the diabetes when she
Mm-hmm.
could have just been having a conversation with him. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Like we get obsessed with our view of somebody else's stuff or even our own? Is that what you're talking about? And then,
We get intoxicated by our own. Think about your friend, and it's like, what had her mind made up about her brother that she lived inside of?
right. Well, I
Well, I
mean,
mean, what do you
those things
think?
were
What do you think it was?
factual, but the problem that she made up, as I see it, was that she could do anything about it. And was that adding to the relationship or not? It's like you said some years ago, what are you bringing to the party or whatever? And that was
Yeah,
unwanted and actually painful thing for her.
and I'll even say too that in her mind, whether it's scientifically based or not, in her mind, it had told her that he would live longer if he didn't drink or whatever he did, whatever he was doing. If he didn't do it, he would live longer and have a better quality of life. And
Right.
and that was a perception or a story that she bought in 100%. And just to your point, the innocence of not seeing that when she drank the Kool-Aid, that it would be better if he would do better if that was a factual or not, like she's seeing the bottom line. Oh my God, the time I wasted not just being with him.
Mhm.
And so in these kind of conversations like we're having, I just I love the idea of even thinking when we know what's better for somebody, letting that come between us and them, where it really is an opportunity to cause separation versus, because we believe it. We believe in our and we believe it so well meaning in our heart and soul, like, you know, I totally did the same thing. I totally believed that about my father. It's like, man, if you didn't start smoking at 12 daylilies and you smoke uh, you know, chain smoker the whole rest of your life, you're going to die of lung cancer. Well, guess what? It was no surprise he did. But for a whole lot of time, I held a judgment on him like, why don't you want to live longer to hang out with me and give up those stupid cigarettes?
Yeah.
I carried a lot of perceptions of, a lot of judgment around that was of my own, completely convinced of my own thinking that he would be any more available to me if he didn't smoke. What do I know?
So, but even if you believe in any set of this perception that you're right, I mean, it was like, I know we all think we're right, but even if you like examine it, go like, but yeah, but this is measurably true. Like your dad's going to die of lung cancer because he smoked all his life or
Yeah.
whatever. And if he stopped, maybe you get a few more years.
Hmm.
Even if you think you're true, is the point to recognize that this is coming out of a story you've got, true or not, and that is the point to realize that you have a choice because of the consequences having that attitude or that view, or
Yeah, I think you have
yeah, is that what you're?
multiple, multiple. But you have a choice to put all that down,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
or maybe you don't even have to put it down, but you don't have to hold it between you and the other person.
Okay.
And like my story about me and webinars, I don't have to hold it about me and stop it moving in a direction that I'm kind of drawn to move in. You see what I mean? Whatever it is that you're holding it kind of takes form as like some sort of construct that I have to navigate to be able to take the next step, or I have to navigate. You know, it seems like there's a third part, like between two people. It seems like there's a third party in me and my well, probably more than that. Me and my judgments, them and their judgments, and what they're making up about me, what I'm making up about them. Oh my gosh, how do we ever find a place to connect?
That's awesome. Thank you. I understand better.
Oh, good. No, I'm so glad you asked those questions because it's just kind of noticing at any point in time that we're seeing our thinking as being true. I mean, true like absolute, not true like subjective truth. You know, it's not gravity true. That's what I always like to think. It's not true like gravity where it works the same for everybody. It's got a little. It might have a little or a lot of opinion in it, and just knowing that. Um, I think knowing that makes things more permeable. You know, where fresh thinking could come in, you could consider somebody else's perspective on something. It's not that you know brick wall that we think we have to heal and overcome to move on. And I think too, even that part about that really taking ownership of what you're seeing is a combination of what your head's making up. about anything. I mean, it might be a green tree, facts are facts, and facts are neutral. That's another thing. Facts are neutral, completely neutral. Now, if anything that doesn't feel neutral, that helps me see that's got me all over it. And I see your eyebrows go up. Tell me.
Okay, I never think I understand the facts are neutral. Okay, so let's just so I can understand it. I have to have a home base here. All right.
Right.
It was not neutral that you saw your father's health decline. Okay. Or that my
Right.
friend saw objectively. It was a fact like gravity
Yep.
that the dude wasn't able to get up anymore and was getting dementia as a
Yep.
result of what he did.
Yep.
So
Well,
that's
wait.
oh,
We
is it
don't
the facade?
know.
Is it
It's
the
just the
facade?
fact he was declining.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? So we can't, you can't even assume 100% in an organic world that it's because of X. We
And
might,
you but you're saying because you felt sorrow or whatever you felt about that observation that your dad wasn't breathing as well, couldn't walk as far, whatever, or my friend's brother, whatever, his handicaps, you're saying that the intensity of your emotion about that or motivating you to do something tells you that this is about your own construct on the situation.
yes.
Okay, sorry, that's why I was going like I don't understand. Sorry.
No, I love that when you ask that because you're asking it for everybody, you know? So thank you for that. I'm always appreciative of that.
Elaborate on what you said about the seeds versus the soil level.
Yes, yes. So, in our culture, we tend to want to get a how. Give me an application. Give me a how to fix this. Give me a something. I need to figure this out. I need a plan. I need to take action. We as human beings, most of the time, we just feel so much better doing something. I want to do something to feel better. I want to do something to make change. I want to do something. And it's typically to have a different experience. And so when I was talking about like if we go to the seed level, I mean at the doing level, it's like, okay, and I'm not dissing anything that makes sense to anybody. I'm not dissing anything. But say for instance, I don't know, first thing popped in my head is an affirmation. And affirmations are great and wonderful, and you can say them all day long, but that would be like you're still trying to create an antidote to your thinking. Like I don't know, like I'm worthy. That would be like an affirmation. I am worthy. I am worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. You can say it for now till the cows come home, which is wonderful. If it helps you shift and understand. But when you understand that it was only something you made up in your mind that would suggest you're not worthy, that would be digging up the seed. That would be getting the seed of untruth out of the garden, so to speak. Does that do it, Yenny?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
No, thank you for asking.
So get into the root of the problem.
Yeah, let's just dig in there and go, wait a minute. Because we can be I always kind of think of it, we can be in the boxing match with all my judgments about myself, but I'm
Mhm.
not changing. I'm not changing
Yeah.
anything.
Or the root of the perception, not the problem.
Yes, exactly. The root, yeah, because what if it's not even a problem? The perception made the problem. So, yeah, yeah, totally, totally, totally. I think that shows up so much in siblings, whether you were raised close together or farther apart. Everybody has their own perception of their parents. I know I'm the youngest of four in 5 years, so I mean it wasn't like a big time span, but the range of perceptions from from the oldest to the youngest, you would think I'd had I'd had different parents. You know, it's just fascinating. But that's those perceptions of our parents. You could see if we hold that as absolute truth, how could it be an absolute truth if four people in the same household in 5 years have it's still the same two people who made those four kids. You know what I mean? So let's go back to the fact. Those same two people made those four kids. They all lived in the same house. All that's neutral until each one of those four kids built the reality of what those facts were for themselves. Yes,
But you had different experiences.
Yeah, I have a little factoid. It was just on the internet a few days ago. I can't remember who the researcher was or whatever. They've decided that firstborn and only children are 48% more likely to experience anxiety and depression than any of the other children. I thought, and I'm a firstborn, and I was talking to somebody else who is a firstborn, and it's interesting, and I'm sure they don't really know why, but part of it is because in our culture, people are not really around kids until they have their own. Maybe it's they don't really know what to do when the first one comes along. Who knows? But anyway, I just thought as a little fact that.
well, I just have to say, Donna, as the last born, uh, and the story of my, and that perception I did, the last born, poop runs downhill, and there's no one place to land is when it lands at the youngest. You know what I mean? So that stress and anxiety and all that is like, I don't know, because you got a lot of people above you on this hierarchy that's kicking the can your way. You see what I mean? So it's all of, it doesn't matter if it's scientific judgment and research and all that stuff, or diagnosis even, you know what I mean? It's a compilation of the human thought that got a code or got a determination, or not making it good or bad. It's just what we use in the world. But I think we can use those determinations in a way that it can either serve us or handicap us.
Yeah, I'm the youngest. I'm the one who has most anxieties. And my brother's in the middle, but he was always picked on. So he got out of town. He got away from mom. So it all depends also is how you're treated. Each one is treated.
But also, what do you do with it? What do you do with the treatment? You know what I mean? What do you do with
some people don't know what to do and they hold it in. And then now that we're an adult, it's like, I guess all of us are the kind of same generation to where we did what we were told. We didn't have any ideas for ourselves. It was always, okay, this is the way it's going to be. So now that we're an adult, like for a long time, I had to always get opinions from other people. Oh, because I may not be doing it right, And even with summits, I'm in the mindset, not anymore. I used to be in the mindset of missing out. Oh, if I don't hit every single thing, if I don't hit yours, if I don't do this summit and this summit, I'm going to miss out on something. Well, you're not going to miss out on anything if you don't go and you don't know what you're talking about. So I finally overcome that. But anyway, yeah.
That seed of you're going to miss out on something, you can see how much action you would go into or reaction you would go into just believing that you're going to miss out on something. Versus, just kind of relaxing, going, everything I need to see is going to come my way. Everything I need to do is going to come my way. I don't know about you. That feels better to me than FOMO. But you can believe that there's FOMO, fear of missing out. You can believe it and run in reaction to that thought for a long, long time.
That's why this year I've really stopped doing a lot of things. And I'm going back for the last 2 years and pulling together, what have I learned? Where am I today? Because you can keep buying, keep researching, but it's all the same loop. You're learning the same thing, but in a different way. So
exactly.
I'm going back, and because people could trick you, especially during the holiday seasons. Oh, buy this, you could do this, So I thought, no, and I gave myself, I'm not going to buy one more thing the next, few months, except for food, So it was amazing how much I have gotten done. And when you look back to see what you really know and what you've learned in those last 2 years, it's like, pull it all together, tighten the belt, So that's what I've been doing.
That even the influences that come toward us it's our own thinking that decides if I need to do something about it. Your own perception of those, like, oh, so that it comes back to this to point toward the seed of it, going, okay, wait a minute. Okay, the whole world may be doing this, but what really is in alignment with me? What really I get a sense of what's best for me. You know, the culture of the time is like, you're to be seen and not heard. We'll tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it. And a free thinker was not embraced. At least the time I grew up, being a free thinker was got me grounded a lot. It was not a welcome guest at the table to be a free thinker. Being the kid that told her mother, like at 7 years old, I was like, I don't get this original sin stuff. I don't see how baby could sin. So, yeah, yeah. But as we kind of just coming back, it's like if we look really, anytime we're in a place of upset or turmoil or a really crappy feeling, it's a good thing to just kind of reflect on going, okay, wait a minute. If it's a crappy feeling, it's telling you something. Like, wait a minute, I believe this shouldn't be happening. But the facts are it is, I believe this is wrong. Well, it might very well be wrong per your perception, but it's happening. You see what I mean? So it's like, do you want to be able to navigate your perceptions, to be able to see how you can, if it's a little more permeable, you can live more peaceful. And to me, the point, I think it's so important to, if we can navigate a way to see and feel a more peaceful existence, especially in times when so much doesn't make sense or so much change is happening, or the needle's not moving, or the needle is moving. And to be able to have a more permeable relationship with your perception, so you could find and experience possibility of connection with yourself, with others, and let that be easier. In that place of coming back going, God, if I just got out of my story, what else is available for me? And I think that'll show you many different universes. If I got out of my own story, what else would be available to me?
I'm actually a clinician, and so much of what you're talking about is cognitive behavioral therapy based, which is where we look at our cognitions, what we're thinking, and our emotions, as well as our behaviors. And they're all how interrelated each is to the other. And sometimes when you actually study the way your own patterns of thinking are, because we all have a pattern. We all have certain schemas or frameworks in how we process information, how we store it, how it comes up. But one of the things I like to work on with people, particularly suffering from like anxiety or another mood disorder like depression, is to really kind of analyze your own patterns of how you're thinking. And so sometimes even just looking up or Googling cognitive distortions, it's a list of different ways in which we think, or cognitive biases. And then sometimes you can see, like, if you're the type of person that might catastrophize, where something comes up and you automatically go to like a place of thought that is the worst possible outcome. Or if you might have a thought pattern of something that they call black and white thinking, where it's either this or that, and you have trouble seeing the gray area. But there's a whole list of a whole bunch of them. But I think it's worthwhile to understand the way you or us, we, have our own patterns of thoughts. And then you can kind of try to reframe it or think differently, because we all are going to see things completely different from one another. I'm one of five also. I had never heard of your little fun fact in terms of the anxiety for the oldest. I'm the second oldest of five, and four of us were born in 5 years. So we're boom, boom, boom. So but we all have had different experiences. And so like our schemas and how we're storing the information in our brains could be quite different from each other, even though like I have a sister literally a year older and literally a year younger. We're very, very different in our personalities and how we see the world. So yes, it just really resonated with a lot of what you're saying with that cognitive behavioral therapy for me.
Yeah, and I think it's so helpful to be able to see if you're stopping yourself, that you're the one stopping yourself. And the one and I used to really feel like, because it would feel so real, that there was like a block in front of me that I needed to figure out a way to scale and overcome and get on the other side. And it's like, it's kind of like walking through the fog. It's like, wait, it might look like it's there, but it doesn't have, my thinking doesn't have any sort of solidity to it. I could just keep walking, but it looked like I had to scale it, Oh, and in my mind, it'd be like, I might as well do Kilimanjaro. It's going to take much more than just 2 more steps to get past the fog. Yeah. Totally. And I think it's that place where when we're little kids and we have no power and we're dropped in this governmental structure, and we got to figure out how's this game played and how do I survive it? The figuring out part of us goes into overdrive, and then we play off of whatever we've made up the rest of our life. But until we get the awareness of like, wait a minute, whoa, wait a minute.
But can we address, or you address, like I've gotten into some heated discussions recently with the politics, with people who see things so differently, and I'm able to say, I listen to them and then I hear what they're saying. I can say, oh, so you see it that way. Can you hear what my perceptions are? And then they're just, no, they say I'm wrong. And I mean, there comes to a point, like with somebody I've known for probably close to 20 years and been somewhat close to, where I just said, look, we have to agree to disagree. I can't talk to you right now. There's no way, there's no bridge, I don't feel like there's any bridge here. And that's painful for me, like I'd like to be able, and I just wonder if there's any way, or like, I don't know. I'm finding much more of that lately with people, being stuck in their positions, and I'm trying to put my interest in the relationship as a higher priority than the positions that,
The thought that if they didn't drink, mine about not smoking, or the friend not drinking, like that was in between. So I think in the same sense, it's like, wait a minute. If what is important to you to connect, what if you shelf that particular topic and connect to the person?
So can I throw something in here? Because I think this is what makes it a little more complicated than what Janet brought up, which was a great.
Okay.
That example was about somebody doing something to destroy themselves. And this is my personal opinion, and I'm working on not acting any way in the world. But when you have a different situation where somebody now has the power to hurt other people, that's a whole different thing. And so like when I was growing up, I knew kids in my school who would go off to these fundamentalist revival meetings, and I never got it, but I kind of always felt like if that makes them happy and they're not hurting anybody else, that's fine. But when people have the power to hurt other people, that's where the line is to me. So I'll let you comment on that.
And I think it's that place where how much is it I'm in control of? Right, right. And I think that's to me is uh, a giant spiritual lesson for all of us. I don't care if it's I can't control what the people in my life do, or and I can't control what happens in. I can only I have the length of my arm is only so long about what I can do with any situation, and then okay, how do I come back and find peace within myself? And my pat answer these days, and I don't know, it was a slogan that came to me with a fresh thought, and this was so helpful to me, is like, politics is not my higher power. So I do know there's a higher power in the universe somewhere where it's like I don't like to talk politics and I don't like to talk religion, but it's like politics is not my higher power. There's some evolution takes many strange faces. And so to that point of I got to give up control. My peace is more valuable to me than staying churned. Because when I go out into the world churned up, whether I say something or not say something, the consciousness I'm carrying, that churned up consciousness, is kind of my contribution to the air, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
entering into society.
Yeah, Sherry, can I put a point to that?
Sure.
Because I there's a group from church I play games with, and there are a lot of us who just stop going. And when they bring up politics, I mean, we were raised don't have politics or religion, you know. But when these people certain came out, and I didn't go this one time, I wish I had to help this lady because she said, we're here to play, we're not here to talk politics, leave that out the door. And they pounced on her. And I wasn't there to help her. So I went one time and they pounced on me for something, they said something, I zip it. But I learned, don't go back. So I haven't been back there for 2 months because a part of me thinks I should speak up. But if majority of them are against me, why say anything? So I pull it, and it's kind of like food. I do a lot of eating, trying to eat healthy, and it's like when you go out to a restaurant, you have a choice where you eat. You have a choice of what you eat, and like my husband said, you have a choice of who you want to spend your time with. He said, "Those people are toxic," and like I forget which one said or you said they're hurting themselves. If they don't want that relationship and they keep doing whatever, they're just hurting themselves. And you don't want to be trapped into that. You don't want to pull yourself down to where at their level. So I just don't say anything, leave. And I thought, okay, if they're going to treat me like that, I just won't go back for a while. And if I do, I'll see how they respond. But it's amazing how many people left that group. They used to have like 3 or 4 tables. Now they're down to not even barely one. And that's sad because you want to commute, you want to be in community and play games and do that. Keep everything else out of it. And I don't know what's happening today, but I spend a lot more time at home. I cook at home. I don't really go anywhere.
To come back to that, it's like for those things we can't control that can be so disturbing and upsetting, don't give me on kids and how kids should be, the things, the atrocities to kids and that kind of stuff. Don't even get me started on those kinds of things. But the place to consider is the more we can value coming back to peace within ourselves, I believe that opens the space for us to have new solutions that have never been considered, that would bring solutions and maybe a call to action for us to be able to make change in the world beyond what we feel like we have the control to do right now. Because the creative process, we all know that the creative process flourishes in a relaxed environment. When we're tense and contracted, the flow just doesn't happen as well. Don't.
One of the hard things for me is that I can control my behavior mostly, although I do realize I'm being mean in subtle ways to all kinds of people.
Mhm.
The people that I love, that I would not want to be mean to, just because it's leaking out of me. But the other thing is, even though I don't do anything particularly measurable in the world, I have, I have, I carry around this disrespect for these people. So every time I come in contact with somebody like this, I'm sure they know I don't respect them.
Mhm.
So that's a problem.
Right. And so I even think, what if that's not true, that you don't do anything measurable in the world?
Well, I never would say anything out loud to contradict anyone.
No, 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 no. But I mean, the judgment against yourself that you don't do anything measurable in the world, your presence is it.
Yeah, what I meant was I don't do anything measurable in terms of acting in a hateful way.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. I thought your mind was poo-pooing your place on the planet, and I was like, we're not letting that go by.
Right. But there is something in my heart going on that's a little hateful.
Oh, sure. It can't not when you feel like they're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you can smear peanut butter on poop all day long, and it still stinks. The stink comes through. You know, it just you try. You just do your best, and it's innocent. And you do your best, but it's like, wait a minute. Come back to this, to the seed of the perception. I feel like this is wrong. I feel like they are wrong, and that's not helping me. So what if I could just kind of, you got to go back to the seed. We've all made some sort of a assumption, decision, determination. It's like, wait a minute. I'm holding that determination like gravity, and it's like, well, it may be, but I'm not worth suffering over it. I'm not going to suffer over it. I'm not going to forfeit my peace for it.
But you're also saying, which is way more interesting to me, that it's like I think two metaphors jump to mind. One is the painting process that a lot of us do, but also the guy who taught me how to use a really heavy fly fishing rod. I mean, what's interesting to me here, though, is that you're suggesting that by letting go, you're not giving up your opinions about things, but realizing that they are a set of opinions and
Yes,
that you don't get any peace applying them to the situation at hand.
yes,
And in fact, you've seen that it's not effective to argue with your diametrically opposed dear friend who believes differently from you. Um, you're saying that in the act and then in the repeated moments of letting go, you're freeing up more whatever that might actually give you a solution.
yes,
You're saying
yes.
there's
Beautifully said.
more opportunity in releasing the tension than there is in maintaining the tension, is what you're saying.
It takes a lot more work to maintain the tension. It does. That's like, to me, just like holding your barbells over your head for 20 years, you know, it's going to hurt.
Because literally, the fly fishing guy told me that every time there's a thing called the spay rod, which is 4 times as heavy as a regular fly fishing rod, and that if you
Mhm.
pick it up over and over, that you just get tighter and tighter, and the inflammation builds up, and it hurts. You're stiff. It's not going to work. But that
Mhm.
every single time you almost put it down, just release it, release it, release it, then you get success.
Wow. That's a
So
great,
the same thing, that the more I hang on to, damn it, those people are absolutely wrong, and how could they do this to us, and how am I going to change this, is not leaving the space for anything new to happen.
correct.
Okay, got
Correct.
it.
I love that, Jen. We all need t-shirts. Release it, release it, release it. If it's causing me suffering, release it, release it, release it. And if I don't know how to do it, by whomever, show me how to do it. Release it, release it, release it. All that seems that whatever's happening that I'm not in agreement with. I don't have to be in alignment with it, but just the part that you're not in agreement with it, release it, release it, release it. There's something I'm not seeing here. There's something my mind doesn't let me see here. Not right or wrong, just something else to be seen. Well, I can't thank you enough, everybody, for just making time in your day to come have these conversations. I appreciate it so very much. So very much. And next month we'll have one in December, and we're gonna play, you know, Jeopardy, which I think will be fun. How you can play Jeopardy with yourself through the holidays. in the hopes of being in a much more peaceful state of mind. So that's what we'll be doing in December on the free Friday webinar series. So thank you all for coming. Well, that was a fun conversation. I hope you heard some real gems from the examples people shared that you could really reflect on and see similarly in your own life. There's so many things we all face with a little different twist or a little different content, but we have the opportunity to live with it all much more peacefully. This is Sherry Ray. I would love to connect with you. You can reach out to me at sherry@sherryray.com, and I look forward to hearing from you.